come out on a Chota. Chota.
There is aggro. Watch your aggro.
Yes, there is absolutely aggro, guys. That needs to be said. Like I said, there's nothing you can do about the channel. Chota and melee, make sure you don't go anywhere near the middle of the Sunwell. You'll get knocked out, take a damage ability from the getting knocked out, and you will take damage when you land because it knocks you far enough into the air. Please don't do that. It's unnecessary damage we can avoid. There is Legion Lightning, which is a basic chain lightning effect, guys, except it's shadow damage. So we need to make sure we have shadow resistance on the entire raid. It is resistible. It is a 50-yard jump range, so that there is no way to spread out to avoid it, guys, unfortunately. It starts off doing about 3,000 shadow damage, anywhere from 3,000 to 3,500. It will jump to 4 additional targets, losing damage as it jumps, but every person that gets hit with it will get 1,500 mana drained from them, obviously, unless you don't have mana to be drained. The Fire Bloom effect is what we saw before, guys. It puts a fire orb around yourself. It is a 10-yard range. It ticks for about 1,700 damage and lasts for 20 seconds, if I remember right. It stays on you and it just continues to do damage in a pulse. So if we're running in for the other mechanics to stack up, you need to make sure that you stay away from people as you're running in with Fire Bloom. The last one is the Summon Shield Orbs. These are those purple balls that float around above the boss, guys. They're almost always going to spawn on, as we look at it right now, the right-hand side, I will ping where you see on my map that I put Shadow Orb spawn. So it's going to be on myself, Papa, Little Big Zug, and Bulkin to try to kill them as quick as possible. And as they rotate through the group, if they come into range, because they rotate around on top of us, if they come into range of Kil'jaeden or Angry, you guys need to look up and focus them too. They spawn multiple at the same time. It starts off at 2 and then goes to 3 in the end phases. Once you push Kil'jaeden to 85%.
Can I add on, Quko?
Oh, please, go ahead, Yeti.
So it's actually 1 orb in the first phase. And it's going to spawn on Bulkin's and my Papa's Big Zug side every single time first. Pushing them to the next phase spawns the second orb. The orb spawn pretty much where Angry and I are marked on the map. It doesn't spawn that far back in the room. It spawns in the center on that purple carpet.
They always rotate counterclockwise.
Yep, and so they're always the one closest to me is always going to come into the raid, and then obviously the one from Angry and Suru is going to start coming into the raid as well. But it's super important you switch to these immediately. They cannot make a rotation around. It's too much damage. These have to die. Cannot be understated.
They have around 20,000 health, guys. So if everybody throws one really strong ability at them, hunters, if you're auto attacking them, they melt fairly quickly but again, everybody has to be focusing on that's in range. So like Yeti said, when it spawns on the mage's side, all 3 mages turn and do it. Biney, you'll probably be out of range. If you aren't, go ahead and throw something at it. Even dots help, but Alea and Samno, you guys need to make sure you're tagging that too.
Tagging what? Sorry.
The Shadow Orbs, it's going to spawn over Angry's head. If you look at the map where it's going there in phase 2, they need to die immediately. It's only got 20,000 health, so it dies quickly. If the one from the opposite side somehow magically makes it over to you, if you see a purple orb floating above your head, it needs to die. Like, that is your priority target.
Why is it going to be Angry's head specifically?
Because it's where he's positioned in the fight to stand. That's where they spawn.
Yeah, it's just the spawn.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's going to spawn. It spawns in the air above that area around where Angry is standing. In the next phase, when we push him to 85%, guys, he will go into phase 3. When he goes into phase 3, he adds a couple mechanics. The first mechanic that as soon as he swaps into this phase, he's going to do Sinister Reflection, which is the shadow clones that we've talked about, guys. He's going to pick a random person in the raid group, and he's going to summon 4 clones of them. The clones will not become active as far as targeting players with a threat table until someone damages them or 10 seconds passes. So you have 10 seconds to get them. After that happens, they need to be, Fubar is going to pick them up as quickly as possible. We need to turn basically all DPS into killing these things. They need to die very quickly. They are very easy to cleave, but they have all the effects of the player that gets picked, and it's a general effect from the class, not off the player's spec. So if it's a warrior, they're always considered like an arms warrior. They will spin and do damage like that. If it's a druid, they're always going to throw life blooms and moonfires. If it's a hunter, they trap, all that. You guys get the basic effects. If it is a priest specifically, we need to make sure that we're purging the boss or dispelling, spell stealing, whatever, to get the renews that go onto the boss, because we don't want him healing. Same thing, we need to dispel the raid when things go out, or decurse if it's a warlock, all of that. We burn those down quickly. Good.
Zench had an issue with getting improved wing clip. Is that what happened to you, Zench?
Well, it was just the hunter ads, so Freedom resolved it.
Yeah, he might need Freedom doing that.
Well, Fubar is going to be tanking it, so he can actually Freedom him.
Okay. Yep. That's all.
Yep, and we actually hope we get hunter ads, because the hunter ads are like debatably the easiest ones to kill. Anyway, it's an important mechanic to kill those guys quickly, but they die fast. They're easy to kill. Just don't do anything to them until Fubar gets aggro. those happen
I want to
every
stop
time.
you real quick.
Go ahead.
If you, we'll try to call it out of when they're about to spawn. That way, there's no AOE's going out. I think a couple times there was some AOE that went out and reached out to the ads, so it initiated like their combat.
Yep.
Because they don't attack anyone until they're attacked. So.
Yep. The other mechanic adding into this phase, guys, is there's a couple of them, but the couple more is Shadow Spike. That's the one we were talking about, where it's very similar to the Void Reaver mechanic. With the arcane bombs, we used to have hunters kiting around in a circle. It's the same idea as that. He's for a 28-second period. It's effectively a channel. He's going to be throwing these giant purple prisms out of his head or head area that you can look up and see. So have your camera focus kind of upwards, and if you see one coming in your general direction that looks like it's coming at you, all you have to do is sidestep, guys. It's an 8-yard range, so just like this far, and then you're far enough, and it'll land on the ground harmlessly. And he's going to continuously do this for that 28-second channel. If you do get hit with it, guys, it is around 5,900 damage. It's anywhere from 5k to 7k damage, and it puts a negative healing effect on yourself, so you can't get healed. Well, you can get healed, but it's a 50% healing reduction for you. Yeah, so it's really hard to deal with, guys. It's a mechanic that's easily avoidable. It's not something we should be taking.
Just a big word of warning to Melee on that. Since you're he casts it from his hand, it's near impossible for Melee to see this shit coming from his hand because you're right below it almost every single time. And if you get hit by 2 of these, you're dead. So you just kind of really got to look.
Yep, and that's why we're going to be split up into 2 groups on the backside of him, and you're going to try to spread as best you can, while being effective in that part. And when I say spread, I don't mean go towards the back of the boss. I mean make sure that you're in your 2 stacks, so that we're saving damage as much as possible. And if you see them coming, you need to pay attention for it and move. I know I say this a lot, guys, for a lot of these fights, but the damage you do on this fight, at least in our beginning pulls, doesn't matter. Learn the mechanics. Don't die. I don't care how much your parse is. I don't care how much damage you're doing. Don't die to mechanics. That's the most important thing here, is seeing the fight through. All right, continuing on. He has Flame Dart Explosion. It's an instant cast. He can do it. It's a window timer. He can do it up to every 3 seconds. Every member of the raid is going to be hit by flame darts. If you're in the room, it's around 1,700 damage. If you don't have the breath haste on you, you will get a slow. What is the slow? I wrote it down. It's a 50% movement slow for 15 seconds. It's resistible but not dispellable. I don't remember. You might be able to get freedomed. I don't remember.
Yeah, you can freedom it.
So you can freedom it, but it's not like a regular dispellable thing. But you can get the breath attack or the breath ability from the dragon, and if you have that on you, you cannot be slowed. So it gives you immunity to it. The shield
druids can shift it probably.
I think you can shift it.
You can
yes,
shift it too.
You can do any basic thing to get rid of it. It's a red ability slow basically. Summon Shield Orb is going to spawn 2 more at this point, guys. That's in this phase. That's when the second Shield Orb comes out. That'll be Angry's side. The first, they spawn at the same time. The first one still comes out from Papa, Bulkin, and Yeti's side. The last ability is the most important ability of the fight, guys. It is Darkness of 1,000 Souls, and yes, that is a mouthful to say. It's when Kil'jaeden puts his wings around himself. He emotes and says something. I don't remember exactly what the words are. But that is the time when we all need to be stacking, guys. So when someone yells stack, stop what you're doing. Don't worry about anything else in the raid at that point in time, unless you have the fire debuff on you. And if you do, obviously, get away from everybody. But you need to be running towards that little blue circle where Goody is standing. And that center point. Go ahead.
Oh, just a quick question on that. Do you have any idea where, if the darkness is survivable with block while outside?
You can block outside of it, yeah.
You can block or bubble.
I was just curious. That way, like if I happen to have fire, I know you can't block the fire off. You still take damage even if
you can block the fire off.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I blocked the fire last.
Yes, you can block the fire off as well. You can
that's where I was still taking damage from it.
All right. Someone else was hitting you probably.
All right, so back to the point, guys. It's an ability that's unavoidable. After 8 seconds of that cast, guys, it does minimum 47,500 damage that is not resistible to you. You instantly die. So you need to be inside that dragon's bubble. If you are super far away from it, you need to specifically call one of the paladins out, preferably Threatco if he hasn't already been called, and get a Blessing of Freedom on yourself. There is no if, ands, or buts. You will die.
If you're running the appropriate weak auras, it'll show up on your raid frames who you can freedom, stuff like that. So we're gonna call for collapse. Okay, that's the keyword is collapse on the dragon, and you get in the shield.
Yep.
So are we doing collapses for breath as well?
Angry, what was that?
Are we doing collapses for breath buffs as well?
No, the breath buff should be going out right as with if it's done well, the breath buff goes out right as we're doing the stack debuff to it as well. As we get further in and better,
you guys saying something about collapsing again, but
ideally, the breath is going out as soon as shield ends. So give him 2 seconds to cast both breaths before you split. That way you get both breaths because we're all going to be staggered anyway.
Like I said, as we get better, we'll do different strategies. Right now, we're just focusing on the mechanics, and what Yeti said is perfect. And it was the next part.
I was just curious if at the time lined up on it, or if we had to do a separate collapse through the buff.
Nope. It'll work out just like that. We'll get the shield off, and then we hang out for another 2 seconds after to let them get the breath attacks off, and they'll do one of each. All right. Once you push him, guys, to 50. Well, actually, I'm going to say it just to be sure. We need to push him to 55% before he gets the third darkness. I'm just going to call it darkness, guys. That's where he puts his wings up, does the big debuff, the big damage.
We get 2 shields. If we don't kill him in 2 shields, we wipe.
Yep. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way to avoid it. You literally you surrender the game, you wipe. When we get to phase 4, which starts at 55%, you'll notice a recurring theme every time you push him into a different phase. The first thing that happens is he summons the shadow clones again. So again, watch your AoE when we get to that 55% mark. Fubar will pick those up. We'll burn them down. The only other 2 effects that are added, guys, are we get a 3rd orb at this point in the game, at this point in the thing. If I remember correctly, it spawns 2 orbs above where you're at, Yeti, and 1 orb above Angry. And
no, the 2 spawns stay the same. The 3rd one spawns pretty much where the green arrow enters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we'll have to kill it. We'll have to kill it on its way around, guys. We're not going to run to find it. It'll just get to us.
It'll be the Vulcan Papa Big Zug side again.
Yep. So we got to just make sure we kill orbs when that happens, guys. The other effect that comes out, guys, is called Armageddon. What it's going to do is it's going to put a little fire circle on the ground. There's a lot of disagreement on this ability, whether it targets off players or just goes into random spots. From what I've seen, it targets mostly off players. So you're going to see a red circle appear on the ground under you. You have 6 seconds to move away from it, guys. If you don't move,
avoid the fire, avoid the circles on the ground, guys.
It's a Hellfire pulse off on the ground. The hitbox is bigger than the image, so you
come down 3 at a time randomly. Don't stand in the fire circles.
Yep, move out of the fire circles, guys. You have 6 seconds to get away from it. If you get hit with it, you die. It's 10,000 fire damage. You're dead. That's the only other effect in that phase, guys, is it adds Armageddon. The same effect as before. We need to push him from 55% to 25% before the second dragon shield, or before the third dragon shield, because we don't get a third dragon shield. If we don't push him, we wipe. When we go to phase 5, it changes up a little bit. What's going to happen is when we push him to 25%, we get another set of Sinister Clone adds. He begins casting shadow spikes again that throw out at people. But then Avina is going to sacrifice herself, and she applies a debuff to Kil'jaeden, which makes Kil'jaeden take 25% more holy damage, and he's stunned for 5 seconds. He will continue to cast the shadow spikes while he's doing that, just because he's stunned. It doesn't care about channeling. But we get 5 free seconds of damage on him. Then he's going to continue. This is when the push phase comes. He's going to start casting the Darkness of 1,000 Souls, which is the bubble himself buff, every 25 seconds, or shield himself buff for every 25 seconds, which means that we're going to be continuously grouping up for the dragons, basically. So the spread is going to get a lot tighter for those, and we're going to be a lot closer to the dragons. You only have 8 dragons to do this in, guys. We get 8 dragon buffs to do this, which means that we can't let more than 3 darkness go.
This is another twin situation. If you make it to phase 5 with your entire rate of life, it's you win.
And that's it, guys. That's the fight. He does not do any more. He does 5 Armageddons this time, guys. There's 5 fire orbs coming down, but he does not do any more of the shadow orbs at this point. So once we get him to 25%, there's no more shadow orbs coming out.
There's also no fire bloom, I believe, either.
Yeah, there might be. I don't remember. I would full well believe you. So let's go on the basis that there are no more fire blooms, guys. So stacking.
No more fire blooms. It's just the slows, and you got to watch out. It's a fast rotation at that point. It's a lot of collapse.
Big one is going to be that you're going to have meteors falling on you in shield. So you need to be very aware of when the shield's ending and when you get out, because you can't eat the meteor when the shield ends. You die.
All right. I know I just over-explained, guys. I'm very sorry about that. I'm going to ask one more question. Zinch, do you and Fubar both looked at the dragon things and you know what you're doing?
Yes.
Fubar?
Sure.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Let's get buffs out, make sure everything's good, and then get a pull in. I'm sorry for over-explaining, guys.